Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Friday, October 22nd, 2021. Big Friday show today. Major League Baseball playoffs. Thursday football, and look ahead to the rest of the NFL week. Number 7 games. College football week 8. We'll recap yesterday's games, look ahead to tonight's and the weekend. NBA, NHL, golf, NASCAR, news and notes, and my best bet of the day. We're going to start in Major League Baseball because it's the playoffs. As we will go over last night's NLCS result and look ahead to today. Dodgers over the Braves, 11-2 to force a Game 6. Getting the win was Evan Phillips. Max Fried was dealt with the loss, as Chris Taylor hits 3 homers, and the Dodgers force a Game 6 back at Atlanta tomorrow night. And now we will look ahead to tonight's Game 6 between the Red Sox and the Astros. You got Nathan Eovaldi and Luis Garcia. I would assume that the Astros are favored, and they are slightly, -116. Boston's -102, over under 9. Overs -105, unders -115. Red Sox -1 is +158. Astros +1 is -92. I hate to get cute, but I'm going to get cute here. I'm going to take the over. The over has been popular in both series of late as the offenses have come alive. So I'm going to take over 9 -105. And I would do a same game parlay with that and the Astros. And that would come out to +289. But for the show, I'll take the over. And then if I had a second choice, it would be the Astros money line. And then Game 6 is on Saturday at 5 o'clock on CFB between the Dodgers and the Braves. Max Scherzer, Ian Anderson. Dodgers -176, Braves +148, over under 8, overs -114, unders -106. Dodgers -1 is -105, Braves +1 is -114. Another over. The Dodgers offense is back, playing well, and I think that Atlanta could score a couple runs, but I don't know necessarily off Max Scherzer. But two that I would really like to parlay would be Braves +1.5 and the over 8, and that in the same game would come out to +310, which is pretty good value. But for the show, I'll take the over, and in the second pick, I'll take Braves +1.5 with the Dodgers winning by 1. And then Game 7 of that series will be Sunday, but Game 7 of Red Sox Astros, if necessary, will be Saturday at 8 o'clock on Fox. We don't know who would be pitching in this scenario. I would say, so Eovaldi's going on short rest, so coming off that appearance out of the bullpen. Will it be Nick Pivetta in a Game 7 for Boston? Or it would be Eddie Rodriguez in a Game 7. And then Houston would go with Jose Urquidy. So it would be Jose Urquidy and Eduardo Rodriguez. And then Game 7 of the NLCS on Sunday night, which would be at 7:30 on CBS. I would assume it would be Charlie Morton for Atlanta. And then for the Dodgers, maybe Urias. Oh, Walker Buehler. Yeah, it would in theory be Walker Buehler. So that's good. So Walker Buehler on normal rest. And you have Scherzer on Saturday. And then Morton against Walker Buehler on normal rest on Sunday if you're the Braves. And you know what? Atlanta tends to be the home of blowing 3-1 series leads, or big leads, like 28-3 and then 3-1. And usually if a team wins a championship, you have to like see some adversity at some point. And I feel like we're seeing that again with the Dodgers here turning it on in this game. And they had the big moment in Game 3. So guess what? I'm going to call it again. I think the Dodgers, we're going to be seeing Dodgers-Astros. I think that we won't see a Game 7 in the AL Series, and then we'll see a Game 7 in the NL Series. And then for the second time in 5 years, we'll have Dodgers-Astros in the World Series. All right, now we'll move on to football. Thursday night football, we will go over the game from last night, and we will look ahead to the weekend. Browns over the Broncos 17-14 without a bunch of key contributors. Browns are 4-3, Denver's 3-4. Case Keenum 21 of 30, 399 yards and a touchdown. Teddy Bridgewater 23 of 30, 387 yards, 2 touchdowns. And an interception. All right. Now we look ahead to the weekend. Sunday, 1 o'clock on Fox. Washington football team against the Packers. My projections for this game is Packers by 11 3/4, total 50.2. Meanwhile, it is 7.5 and 48.5. I'm going to lay it with the Packers. I think they're really in a prime spot here to put up a good performance. And I think this is a slight over game as well. So for the show, I'm going to lay the points with the Green Bay Packers. Next up on CBS, the Chiefs and the Titans. I project, wait for this, guys, the Titans by 5 3/4, total 57-3. Meanwhile, it is Chiefs by 4.5, total 57.5. I love the Titans, and I think they're going to win the game straight up. There's something off with the Chiefs. I don't know what it is, and I think the Titans have some good mojo. I know this could be a letdown spot for the Titans, too, and the ultimate, don't forget about this type of game for Kansas City. But I do love Tennessee, plus the 4.5. And the plus 188 straight up, and I think it's a slight under. On Fox, Falcons, Dolphins. I project the Dolphins by 2 5/8. Total 39.8. No, I'm sorry, 48.3. Meanwhile, it is Falcons by 2.5, the total 47. I'm taking the Dolphins getting the 2.5 and plus 112 on the money line. This feels like a game that the Falcons would lose. It just does. And I think that Tua might have a big chip on his shoulder because people are saying that the Dolphins are close to acquiring Deshaun Watson. And I just think that players might have a chip on their shoulder for that. On CBS, Jets, Patriots. I project the Patriots by 7 3/8, total 39.8. Meanwhile, it is 7 42.5. I am going to take the under. I think that this is a low-scoring game. The Patriots' defense will play well. And I believe that they will, for the second time this year, make Zach Wilson look like a rookie. Next up, the Panthers and the Giants on Fox. I project the Giants by 1 3/4, total 46.25. Meanwhile, it's Panthers by 3, total 43. I have a nice edge on the over and a nice edge on the Giants, but the question is where to go. And where am I going is the New York Football Giants because that's where the bigger edge lies. I'm going to take them getting the 3. This line stinks. Everybody's down on the Giants after they got their butts kicked against the Rams. And people are like, oh, Panthers, they're due for a rebound game, which they are. But I don't think this is it. Sam Darnold back at MetLife Stadium. He's going to hear boos, even though it's going to be from Giants fans. And Giants fans, I think, would tend to boo Sam Darnold because, A, he was a Jet, and B, there's the narrative of the people about how he should have been the pick over Saquon Barkley. And Sam Darnold just isn't that good, and plus he's a Jet. He was a Jet. So, I'm taking the Giants getting the 3 and plus 132 straight up, and I also like the over in this game as a second pick. But the podcast pick will be the Giants. Next up on CBS, the Bengals and the Ravens. I project the Ravens by 8, total 46. Meanwhile, it is 6.5 and 46.5. Close numbers. I'm going to lay to 6.5, but it's a slight edge on the Ravens here, as I think that they'll take care of the Bengals, and I believe that this is a slight over game as well, with both offenses playing pretty well. I'm sorry, a slight under, even though that they're both playing pretty well. 4 o'clock, Fox, Eagles, Raiders. I project the Raiders by 8, total 48-3. Meanwhile, it is 3 and 48.5. I love the Raiders. I think they have a new identity now that John Gruden's gone, and that thing is blown over pretty much. I love to see that team rally around that and not falter like I would see some other teams do if it were to happen to them. And I think that this will be a momentum thing going for Las Vegas. So I'm going to lay to 3 with the Raiders against Philly. On Fox, Lions, Rams. I project the Rams by 15 and 3/4, so 48.95. Meanwhile, it is 16.5 and 50.5. I'm going to go with the slight under for the podcast pick here. I think the Rams defense will continue to play well. And this is the homecoming for Jared Goff. They know Jared Goff and his weaknesses, that defense, so I think it's a slight under. And I also would have, according to projections, a slight edge on the Detroit Lions from a spread standpoint, because that's pretty high. 4:25 on CBS, Texans, Cardinals. I project the Cardinals by 16 and 3/4, so 47.25. Meanwhile, it is 17.5 and 47.5. So 3/4 edge on the Texans and a quarter edge on the under. I hate this pick, but I'm going to take the Texans getting the points just because it's following my projections. Let's say that the Cardinals don't cover because the Texans get a backdoor touchdown or something. And I also have a slight edge on the under as well, as I think the Cardinals defense will play well in a spot against Davis Mills, presumptively, and the Texans. Bears, Buccaneers. I project the Bucks by 11 and a quarter, total 46.75. Meanwhile, it's 12.5 and 47. So 1 1/4 edge on the Bears, and 3/4 of an edge. Or no, a quarter of an edge on the under. So I'm going to do a slight lean towards the Chicago Bears. Maybe Justin Fields in garbage time gets a touchdown. And last but not least, Sunday Night Football, Colts 49ers. I project the 49ers by 2 and 7/8, total 45.6. Meanwhile, it is 49ers by 4.5, total of 44. I have a slight edge towards the Colts here and a slight edge to the over. But I'm going to do the Colts getting the 4.5 here. And no, I don't think they'll win. And I think this is a slight over game as well, as the Colts offense is starting to show a little bit of thump. And I could see the 49er offense going off with Trey Lance at the helm. All right, now college football, we will go over the results from yesterday, and we'll look ahead to tonight and tomorrow. So, all right, here. Number 21, SMU over Tulane, 55-26. SMU 7-0, Tulane 1-6. FAU over Charlotte, 38-9, so best bet was a complete dumpster fire. Florida Atlantic 4-3, Charlotte 4-3. Louisiana over Arkansas State, 28-27. Louisiana 6-1, Arkansas State 1-6. That's the game I should have picked. And San Jose State over UNLV, 27-20. San Jose State 4-4, UNLV 0-7. All right, now we look ahead to tonight. 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, you have Middle Tennessee against UConn. I project Middle by 4, total 54.5. Meanwhile, it is 15.5 and 55.5. I'm going to take UConn and the points, and I have a slight edge on the under. Next up, 7 o'clock on ESPN2, Memphis against UCF. I have to change the projection here due to the absence of UCF's quarterback. And I initially have this projection at 3.5 in favor of UCF. And now I project Memphis by 3. Total 65-85. Meanwhile, it is Memphis by 1.5, total 64.5. I have a slight edge to Memphis with the quarterback situation with UCF, and a slight edge on the over too. But the podcast pick is going to be Memphis minus the points. 9:30 CBS Sports Network, Colorado State, Utah State. I project Utah State by 6.5, total 47.9. Meanwhile, it is Colorado State 2.5, total 58.5. So some significant edges on Utah State and the under. So the under is about 10.5 of an edge. And Utah State is about 9. And this is tough. So I'm going to take the under. I don't like it because I love Utah State, but that could be like a fooling us line. So, in terms of the against the spread. So, I'm going to go with the under as the podcast pick, and then the second pick is going to be Utah State in the 2.5, and even money, and plus 124 straight up. 10:30 ESPN2, Washington and Arizona. I project Washington by 14.5, total 47.9. Meanwhile, it is 17.5 and 45.5. I'm going to take Arizona as the podcast pick in the points. And then the second pick will be the over. All right, now we move on to Saturday. 12 o'clock on ESPN2, number 2 Cincinnati at Navy. I project Cincinnati by 17.5, total 54.5. Meanwhile, it is 27.5 and 48.5. I'm going to take Navy in the points. On ESPN, number 3, Oklahoma at Kansas. I project Oklahoma by 23, total 66. Meanwhile, it is Oklahoma by 38.5 and total 66.5. I'm taking Kansas in the points. Slight to the under as well. Northwestern, number 6, Michigan on Fox. I project Michigan by 6, total 51.4. Meanwhile, it's 23.5 and 50.5. I'm taking Northwestern in all the points. Slight edge to the over, too. ABC, Illinois, number 7, Penn State. I project Penn State by 20.5, total 40.95. Meanwhile, it is 23.5 and 45.5. Under is the play here. Also, a second choice of Illinois, but the podcast play is going to be the under. Number 16, Wake Forest at Army on CBS Sports Network. I project Wake by 4, total 56.15. Meanwhile, it is Wake by 3.5, total 52.5. I like the over. I think the Wake offense is going to score a lot. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Arkansas. Projection, Arkansas by 25.5, total 56.2. Line's not up yet because it's an FCS opponent. ACC Network, UMass and Florida State. I project Florida State by 13.5, total 58.7. Meanwhile, it's 35.5 and 60.5. Love UMass getting all the points. Fox Sports 1, Kansas State and Texas Tech. I project Texas Tech by 4, total 60.8. Meanwhile, it is a pick'em in 60.5. I'm going to take Texas Tech in the pick'em in this spot. Eastern Michigan and Bowling Green. I project Eastern by 7, total 50.3. Meanwhile, it is Eastern by 3.5, total 49.5. I'm going to lay to 3.5 with Eastern Michigan. ESPNU, Northern Illinois and Central Michigan. I project Central by 5.5, total 57.85. Meanwhile, it is 4.5 and 56.5. Slight over. 12:30 ESPN 3, Syracuse and Virginia Tech. I project Va-Tech by 7, total 45.15. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 46.5. I'm going to lay to 3.5 with Va-Tech. 1 o'clock, Kent State and Ohio. I project Kent by 1, total 56. Meanwhile, it is Kent by 5.5, total 66.5. Oh, I love the under. 2 o'clock, Texas State, Georgia State. I project Georgia State by 3, total 58.65. Meanwhile, it is 10.5 and 60.5. I love Texas State getting the points. 3 o'clock, Big Ten Network, Wisconsin at number 25, Purdue. I project Wisconsin by 2.5, total 38.35. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 40.5. It's rare to see the unranked team favored on the road, a.k.a. the ranked team as a home dog, but here we are, and it's deservingly so, in my opinion. So, with this choice, I'm going to take the under as the podcast plays. So I have a slight edge on the under, and I have a slight edge to Purdue. 3:30 on Fox. Number 8, Oklahoma State at Iowa State. I project Iowa State by 2, total 53.5. Meanwhile, it is 7.5 and 46.5. Ooh, big edge on OK State and a big edge on the over. But the question is, where do I go? I have a 7-point edge on the over and the 5.5-point edge on Oklahoma State. So let's go with the over for the podcast. Playing I also like Okie State to cover the number. ABC, number 10, Oregon at UCLA. I project Oregon by 5.5, total 56.75. Meanwhile, it is UCLA by 1.5, total 60.5. Is this a Vegas nose game? I don't know. I'm going to take Oregon plus the 1.5 and minus 105 on the money line. I think that's going to flip by game time. CBS, LSU, number 12, Ole Miss. My projection is Ole Miss by 7.5, total 69.8. I just want to double check on Matt Corral's styles before making a pick for this game. It's still an uncertainty. And FanDuel has this game at Ole Miss by 8.5 till 76.5. That makes you think that he's playing. But even if he does play, he's going to be rusty. So I'm going to go under 76.5 for the podcast, plan of a slight edge to LSU as well. ESPN, Clemson, number 23, Pitt. I project Clemson by 5.5, total 47.3. Meanwhile, wait for it, Pitt by 3.5, total 47.5. I'm taking Clemson plus the 3.5 and plus 138 to win straight up. Rice and UAB, I project UAB by 11, total 48.95. It's 23.5 and 44.5. I'm taking Rice getting the point. ESPN 2, Maryland, Minnesota. I project Minnesota by 10.5, total 51.95. Meanwhile, it's 4.5 and 54.5. I'm going to lay it with Minnesota. Miami of Ohio and Ball State. I project Ball by 11, total 54. 50.4, I should say. Meanwhile, it's 4.5 and 51.5. I'm going to lay it with Ball State against Miami of Ohio. CBS Sports Network, Western Michigan and Toledo. I project Western by 1, total 53.3. Meanwhile, it's Western 1.5, total 54.5. Slight under will be the pick. Buffalo and Akron. I project Buffalo by 9.5, total 58.25. Meanwhile, it's 12.5 and 57.5. I'm going to take Akron in the points. Pac-12 Network, Colorado, Cal. I project Cal by 4, total 40.8. Meanwhile, it's Cal 8.5, total 43.5. I'm going to take Colorado plus the 8.5. Fox Sports 1, BYU and Washington State. I project BYU by 2, total 49.2. Meanwhile, it's 4.5 and 56.5. I'm going to take the under here in this spot. And I do like Wazoo getting the points as well. New Mexico and Wyoming. I project Wyoming by 15.5, total 46.35. Meanwhile, it's 20.5 and 40.5. I'm going to go with the over here. Four o'clock, Mississippi State against Vanderbilt. I project Miss State by 4.5, total 52.85. Meanwhile, it is 20.5 and 51.5. I'm going to take Vandy in the points and have a slight edge to the over, too. Liberty against North Texas. I project Liberty by 7, total 53.85. Meanwhile, it's 21.5 and 60.5. I love North Texas getting the points. Just to cover. ACC Network, Boston College, Louisville. I project Louisville by a half, total 58.7. Meanwhile, it's 5.5 and 57.5. I'm going to take BC plus the 5.5. I don't think I'm going to take him straight up because Louisville's a slight favorite. I'm going to take a slight over. ESPNU, East Carolina, and Houston. I project Houston by 11.5, total 56.1. Meanwhile, it is 13.5 and 57.5. I'm going to take ECU plus the points and have a slight edge to the under. 7 o'clock, ESPN, Tennessee against number 4, Alabama. I project Alabama by 16, total 64.45. Meanwhile, it's 24.5 and 66.5. I'm going to take Tennessee plus the points and I have a slight edge to the under. Oh, no, it's more than slight to the under. My bad. So, Tennessee getting the points and the second pick's the under. CBS Sports Network, number 22, San Diego State against Air Force. I project the Air Force by 5, total 46.15. Meanwhile, it is 2.5 and 38.5. I like the over. I think that these two teams are going to score a little more than you think, and I also like Air Force laying the points as well. Unranked team as a home favorite is against a ranked opponent is usually Vegas knows. So Air Force is Vegas knows, but the podcast play is the over. Number 24, UTSA at Louisiana Tech. I project UTSA by 4.5, total 56.05. Meanwhile, it is 5.5 and 59.5. I'm going to take the under, but you know a lot of people are going to be taking Louisiana Tech, and I have a slight edge on them too. But I have a bigger and better edge on the under. Western Kentucky and FIU. I project Western by a half, total 70.7. Meanwhile, it is Western by 14.5, total 76.5. Oh my God, I love FIU getting the points. That is a lot of points for Western to be favored by, and I also like the under too. Temple and South Florida. I project Temple by 4, total 58.5. Meanwhile, South Florida by 2.5, total 55.5. I have a 3-point edge on the over and a bigger edge on Temple. So I'm going to take Temple plus a 2.5 at minus 114 and plus 108 straight up. And I also like the over. South Alabama and UL Monroe. I project South Alabama by 2, total 53.6. Meanwhile, it's 13.5 and 50.5. UL Monroe has been a cover machine. Sometimes they've been winning outright as big dogs. So I'm going to take UL Monroe plus the 13.5 here against South Alabama. And I also like the over. Next up, at Fox Sports 2, Nevada and Fresno State. I project Nevada by 2.5, total 56.05. Meanwhile, it is Fresno by 3.5, total 64.5. I have a big edge on the under, and I have a nice edge on Nevada, too. But I'm going to go under for the podcast play, and I also like Nevada plus 3.5 and plus 142 on the money line. Since I have a 6-point edge on Nevada, but a bigger edge on the under, which is about an 8-point edge. 7:30 on ABC, number 5, Ohio State at Indiana. I project Ohio State by 12, total of 57. Meanwhile, it's 21.5 and 58.5. I'm taking Indiana in the 21.5, and I have a slight lean to the under 2. NBC, USC against number 13, Notre Dame. I project Notre Dame by 5.5, total 57.4. Meanwhile, it is Notre Dame by 6.5, total 57.5. I have to take USC plus 6.5 at even money. And it's a slight edge, and I have a slight edge on the under, too. So 2 slight edges there. South DC Network, South Carolina against number 17, Texas A&M. I project A&M by 12.5, total 43.55. Meanwhile, it is how come this game's not... Oh, there it is. 19.5 and 44.5. I'm taking South Carolina in the points. I have a slight edge to the under. ESPN 2, number 18, NC State at Miami. I project NC State by 3, total 53.3. Meanwhile, it is NC State by 3.5, total 53.5. So the numbers are very close. But the slightly bigger edge is Miami plus the 3.5 at minus 115. ESPNU, West Virginia, TCU. I project TCU by 6.5, total 60.6. Meanwhile, it is 4.5 and 56.5. I'm taking the over. Pac-12 Network, Utah and Oregon State. I project what's my projection? Oh, there it is. Utah 4.5, total 56.9. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 57.5. I'm going to take Utah minus 3.5 at plus 104. I have a slight edge on Utah. I also have a very slight edge on the under. ACC Network, Georgia Tech, Virginia. I project Virginia by 3, total 58.05. Meanwhile, it is Virginia 6.5, total 64.5. I really love the under in this spot, and I also like Georgia Tech getting the points. And last but not least, at midnight Eastern on Saturday night, New Mexico, Hawaii on... I thought it was on CBS Sports Network. Yes, it's not. Projection, Hawaii by 13, total 55.25. Meanwhile, it's 18.5 and 62.5. I'm going to take the under for the podcast play, and I also like New Mexico State getting all the points. So there you have it for college football. Now I'll move on to the NBA. We will recap last night's games, and we will look ahead to tonight and the weekend. Hawks over the Mavericks, 113-87. The Hawks are 1-0, Mavericks 0-1. Cam Reddish, 20 points for Atlanta, and Luka Doncic had 18, 11 boards, and 7 assists for Dallas. Heat over the Bucks, 137-95. The Heat are 1-0, the Bucks are 1-1. Tyler Herro, 27 points to lead the way for Miami. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 15 points, 10 boards. Warriors over the Clippers, 115-113 in a thriller. Golden State 2-0, Clippers 0-1. Stephen Curry, 45 points, 10 boards. Paul George, 29 points, 11 boards, and 6 assists for the Clippers. Right now we look ahead to tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Hornets and the Cavaliers. I project the Hornets by 3, total of 249. Meanwhile, it is Charlotte by 2.5, total 225. I love the over in this spot. Knicks Magic. I project the Knicks by 11, total 246. Meanwhile, it is 8 and 212.5. I'm taking the over. And I love that I can do the over in this spot instead of the Knicks, because this feels like a letdown after that big win on opening night. Even though I have an edge on New York. Pacers Wizards. I project the Wizards by 2.5. Total 213. It's 1 and 226.5. I'm taking the under. Because Washington played good defense the other night. 7:30 ESPN, you have the Nets and the 76ers. I project the Sixers by 1.5. Total 222.5, and that's without Kyrie and Ben Simmons. Meanwhile, it is Brooklyn by 3, total 228.5. I'm going to take the under, because that's where the bigger edge lies. So all totals so far. Raptors, Celtics. Celtics home over. I project the Celtics by 8, total 226.5. Meanwhile, it is 6 and 218, another over. 8 o'clock, Pelicans, Bulls. I project the Bulls by 6.5, total 198. Meanwhile, it is 6 and 221. I'm taking the under. Thunder, Rockets. I project the Rockets by 2, total 211.5. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 and 221.5 under. 9 o'clock, Spurs, Nuggets. I project the Nuggets by 10, total 214. Meanwhile, 7.5 and 220.5 under. 10 o'clock, ESPN, Suns, Lakers. I project the Lakers by 5, total 221.5. Meanwhile, it's 1 and 220.5. I'm going to lay the 1 with the Lakers in this spot. I can actually take a team against the spread here. So I'm going to lay the 1 with the Lakers against the Suns. I think it's a bounce back spot for them. Meanwhile, it could be a bounce back spot for the Suns. And last but not least, the Jazz and the Kings. I project the Jazz by 6, total 219. Meanwhile, it's 6 and 227. I am taking the under in this spot. So now I'm going to look at the Saturday and Sunday games. I'm sorry I didn't do projections for these games. But maybe on next Friday's show, I'll do projections for the weekend. If not next weekend, then maybe the following Friday's show. Saturday, 6 o'clock, the Hawks at the Cavs. 7 o'clock, NBA TV, the Heat and the Pacers. 7:30, the Mavs and the Raptors. 8 o'clock, Pistons, Bulls. Pelicans, Timberwolves. 8:30, Bucks, Spurs. 10th, NBA TV, Suns, Trailblazers. And 10:30, the Grizzlies at the Clippers. Sunday, 4 o'clock, Hornets, Nets. 7 o'clock, Magic, Knicks. NBA TV, Celtics, Rockets. 76ers, Thunder. 9 o'clock, Warriors, Kings. And 9:30, the Grizzlies at the Lakers. Now I'll move on to the NHL. We will recap the games from last night, and we will look ahead to the games for the weekend. Hurricanes over the Canadiens, 4-1. Hurricanes, 3-0. Montreal, 5-0. Sharks over the Sens, 2-1. Sharks, 3-0. Senators, 2-2-0. Panthers over the Avs, 4-1. Panthers, 4-0. Colorado, 1-3-0. Capitals over the Devils, 4-1. Capitals 3-0-1. Devils 2-1-0. Blue Jackets over the Islanders, 3-2 in overtime. The Columbus 3-1-0. New York 1-2-1. Flames over the Red Wings 3-0. Flames 1-1-1. Detroit 2-1-1. Rangers over the Predators 3-1. Rangers 3-1-1. Nashville 1-3-0. Jets over the Ducks 5-1. Jets 1-2-1. Anaheim 2-3-0. Canucks over the Blackhawks 4-1. The Canucks 2-2-1. Chicago 0-4-1. And the Oilers over the Coyotes 5-1. The Oilers 4-0-0. Arizona 0-3-1. All right. Tonight, 6 o'clock, you have the Sharks and the Maple Leafs from Toronto. Toronto minus 245. Sharks 2-1. Over under 6.5. Over is plus 104. Under is minus 128. Sharks plus 1.5 is minus 128. Toronto minus 1.5 is plus 106. Getting the undefeated Sharks at 2-1 straight up is something. But there's also a reason why that's that. So, the pick in this game will be, I want to pick the Leafs in regulation, but that I really can't find. So I'm going to lay the 1.5 with Toronto at plus 106, although I don't like the pick that much. 7 o'clock, the Bruins at the Sabres. The Bruins are minus 225. The Sabres are plus 188. Over under 5.5. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 104. Bruins minus 1.5 is plus 114. Buffalo plus 1.5 is minus 137. Let's go with the over. Both of these goaltending situations are rocky. So I'm going to go over in that game. 8:30, Kings Stars. The Kings are plus 132. The Stars are minus 156. Over under 5.5. Over is plus 112. Under is minus 134. Kings plus 1.5 is minus 205. Dallas minus 1.5 is plus 168. I'm going to go with over 5.5 at plus 112, but I don't feel good about it. And at 10 o'clock, you have the Oilers and the Golden Knights. Great game. Vegas is minus 138. Edmonton plus 118. Over under 6.5. Over is minus 102. Under is minus 120. Oilers plus 1.5 is minus 215. Vegas minus 1.5 is plus 176. Ooh. This is a tough one. So money line including tie, I think, is regulation. So let's go Vegas in regulation at plus 105 against the Oilers in this spot. All right, now we'll look ahead to the weekend. Saturday, 1 o'clock, Rangers Senators. NHL Network Flames Capitals. 6 o'clock, Ducks Wild. 7 o'clock, Red Wings Canadiens. Avalanche Lightning. Sabres Devils. Panthers Flyers. NHL Network Maple Leafs Penguins. Hurricanes Blue Jackets. Predators Jets. 8 o'clock, Kings Blues. 9 o'clock, Islanders Coyotes. 10 o'clock, the Canucks and the Kraken. Sunday, 1 o'clock, the Sharks and the Bruins. 6 o'clock, the Predators and the Wild. 7 o'clock, NHL Network Red Wings Blackhawks. And 10 o'clock, NHL Network the Islanders and the Golden Knights. All right, now we'll look at Major League Soccer for the weekend. And after this weekend, there's going to be games during the week as well. Maybe like 1 or 2 a week. Like Wednesday's a big slate. Next week and Tuesday we have a game. But without further ado, Saturday, we're not going to do picks because odds aren't up yet. 3:30, Seattle, Kansas City. 6 o'clock, Columbus, Red Bull. 7:30, NYCFC, DC United. Philadelphia, Nashville. Toronto Club Football, Montreal. 8 o'clock, Chicago, Salt Lake. Miami, Cincinnati. Minnesota, LAFC. 9 o'clock, Colorado, Portland. 10 o'clock, LA Galaxy, Dallas. And San Jose, Vancouver. And Sunday, 2 games. 5 o'clock on ESPN, you have Austin and Houston. Then at 7:30, you have Orlando and New England. All right, now we are going to look at the current leaderboard for the Zozo Championship, which has been an interesting tournament to say the least. And this tournament is actually going to end, I believe, Sunday. Yeah, but this tournament just has an extra day in it. So at the top of the leaderboard right now with 8 under, Hideki Matsuyama. Second place with 7 under, Cam Triangle. Tied for third with 6 under, Brendan Steele and Matt Wallace. Tied for 5th with 5 under, Tommy Fleetwood and Joaquin Neiman. Tied for 7th with 4 under, Lucas Griffin, Troy Merritt, Matt Jones, Sebastian Munoz, Alex Thuran, and Hiroshi Iwata. This isn't a tie. 13th place with 3 under, James Hahn. Tied for 14th with 2 under, Luke List, Evan Van Rooyen, Wyndham Clark, Sean Kim, Mackenzie Hughes, and Brandon Grace. Tied for 20th with 1 under, Jonathan Vegas, Colin Marikwa, Saiwoo Kim, Naoki Kataoka, Adam Long, Chris Kirk, Kyan Goulet, Pat Perez, Adam Schenk, and Sam Ryder. Tied for 30th at even. Ryan Palmer, Satoshi Kodiara, UK Ian Mori, Henry Higgs, and Sean Norris. Right now, we're just going to go through the notables. Tied for 35th with 1 over, Keegan Bradley, Ricky Fowler, Carlos Ortiz, Tyson McCumber. Tied for 44th with 2 over, Doug Gim, Adam Putnam, Kyle Stanley, Taylor Hogue, Matthew Neesmith, and Maverick McNeely. Tied for 53rd with 3 over, Doc Redman, Henrik Norlander. Tied for 58th with 4 over, Sep Straka, Emiliano Grillo, Xander Schauffele. Tied for 66th with 5 over, Walter Zalatoris. 70th with 6 over, Roger Sloan. And in 76 with 9 over, Chungsun Pan. Oh, and in 77th with 10 over, Brendan Todd. Alrighty. Now we will move on to NASCAR for the weekend. We'll start with Xfinity. We'll do the starting lineup. And we will make a selection. Alright, so the starting lineup for the race from Kansas. Daniel Hemrick, Austin Cindric, Justin Allgaier, Noah Gragson, Jay Allmendinger, Justin Haley, Harrison Burton, Michael Annett, Brandon Jones, Ty Gibbs. That's your top 10. Jed Burton, Sam Meyer, Riley Herbst, Ryan Sieg, Matt Snyder, Brett Moffitt, Tommy Joe Martins, Josh Williams, Jeremy Clements, Ryan Vargas, Alex Ladd, Bailey Curry, Brandon Brown, Jeffrey Earnhardt, Kyle Weatherman, Mason Massey, Jordan Anderson, Dylan Lupton, Jesse Little, Joe Graff Jr., Matt Mills, Spencer Boyd, David Starr, Patrick Emmerling, Jade Buford, Chad Fincham, Joey Gase, Landon Castle, Carson Ware, and Gary Galding. For this race, I am going to take... What are Justin Haley's odds? Because I think he's due to break through. In the Kansas Lottery 300. 18-1. Let's go Justin Haley. 18-1. And now the Cup Series starting grid from Kansas. Your top 10, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, William Byron, Chris Bell. And then the rest, Kevin Harvick, Tyler Reddick, Kurt Busch, Austin Dillon, Matt DiBenedetto, Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones, Michael McDowell, Chase Briscoe, Eric Almirola, Chase Boucher, Cole Custer, Corey LaJoie, Ross Chasen, Alec Bowman, BJ McLeod, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Anthony Alfredo, Josh Palicki, Ryan Newman, Ryan Preece, Justin Haley, Ryan Ellis, Quinn Houff, Cody Ware, Chad Fincham, David Starr, Joey Gase, and Parker Kligerman. So for this race from Kansas, the Hollywood Casino 400. Let's go with Chase Elliott at 8-1. I think that's pretty good. I want to go with Denny Hamlin, but I think he's overvalued. So let's go with Chase Elliott at 8-1 to win the Hollywood Casino 400 from Kansas. All right, now we will do news and notes for the day. I'm going to try to be quick with this one because we have picks and big picks to do. So, as we saw yesterday, Montreal drops to 0-5 and they hosted Carolina. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is someone that Carolina signed away from Montreal. And Kotkaniemi scored, and the Kane social roasted the Canadians, which was really scary. A big yikes. All right, so Dwight Howard and Klay Thompson call out their snubs on the NBA 75. So that's pretty interesting. They're seeing some current players, that were snubbed and called out. So I'm going to read off the list. It's in alphabetical order. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nate Archibald, Charles Barkley, Bob Cousy, Dave Cowens, Kevin Durant, Julius Erving, George Gervin, Hal Greer, James Harden, Elvin Hayes, Jerry Lucas, Moses Malone, Kevin McHale, George Mekon, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Hakeem Olajuwon, Bob Pettit, Willis Reed, Oscar Robinson, Dave Robinson, Bill Russell, John Stockton, Paul Arizin, Rick Barry, Larry Bird, Walt Chamberlain, Clyde Drexler, Tim Duncan, Patrick Ewing, Walt Clyde Frazier, Kevin Garnett, John Havlicek, Allen Iverson, Magic Johnson, Sam Jones, Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Robert Parrish, Chris Paul, Scottie Pippen, Bill Sherman, Isaiah Thomas, Nate Thurman, Wes Unseld, Bill Walton, Jerry West, James Worthy, Shaquille O'Neal, Dominique Wilkins, Dave Bing, Lenny Wilkins, Dave DeBusschere, Earl Monroe, Bill Cunningham, Elgin Baylor, Dolph Schayes, Pete Maravich, Dennis Rodman, Ray Allen, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, Carmelo Anthony, Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Jason Kidd, Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard, Bob McAdoo, Reggie Miller, Gary Payton, Paul Pierce, and Russell Westbrook. So Damian Lillard made the list. That's interesting. That's something I wouldn't have expected. I knew that Durant and LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, I feel like is somebody that you could make a case got snubbed from this list. So this is a pretty decent list. I think that Dwight Howard has a case over Damian Lillard. I just think that Dame was put in there for recency bias with all those big buzzer beaters in the playoffs and every other big shot he's hit. Meanwhile, Dwight Howard made an NBA Finals in his career, and I think injuries was what really kind of derailed Dwight's career sooner than we expected. So I understand the Dwight thing. Klay Thompson, I don't think belongs. Hasn't played in 2 years, and he wasn't the best player on the championship team. Kevin Durant and Steph Curry were the best players on those championship teams. And you could argue Draymond Green was a better player than Klay Thompson at points as well. So I don't think Klay Thompson belongs there. I love Klay, but he doesn't belong on the list. And I don't think Dame belongs. I think Dwight Howard has a case to be there as well. So I'm going to do very quickly. Denzel Ward left last night's game because of a hamstring injury. Von Miller had an ankle injury, no structural damage to the ankle. Baker Mayfield to get off-season surgery on his torn labrum. And he also has a fracture in his shoulder that needs to heal as well. The Jack Eichel market is quiet right now as Eichel's camp is attempting to convince the Sabres to let him get his surgery with little trade interest. Julius Randle was fined $15,000 for throwing the ball into the stands after the win against the Celtics. So Ben Simmons has back tightness, as he told several staff members that he had back tightness. Amid reports he didn't practice in the workout. And he's apparently not mentally ready to play. Received treatment on his back and is out in an undetermined period of time. And that's according to Shams. As he is expected to meet with the Sixers higher-ups about the playing status. And Daryl Morey says, buckle in, and the situation could take 4 years to resolve amid the drama and negotiations. I think he's exaggerating here. Yankees first base coach Reggie Willits is leaving after taking a job with Oklahoma's baseball program. So that's the fourth Yankees coaching change on the staff, although he wasn't fired and the other three were. The Marlon Mack market is heating up, and teams interested in the Chiefs, the Panthers, the 49ers, and the Saints. Mark Sheffley is in the COVID-19 protocol along with Blake Wheeler, so 2 big losses for the Jets. And Jack Hughes won't need surgery on his shoulder and will be reevaluated next week. All right, now I'm going to do my best bet of the day. Brought to you by FanDuel. For this, I am going to go with a college football game. As I'm going to go with the under in the Colorado State-Utah State game. Because I just think that is pretty high. So I'm going to lay a unit on under 58.5 between those two teams. And now I'm going to do Fab 5 for college football. And the NFL. And the first pick of the Fab 5 will be the Virginia Tech minus the 3.5 against Syracuse. I just think that they're better than Syracuse, and I think this is a pretty good spot for them. I'm going to lay 4.5 with Minnesota against Maryland. I just think that Minnesota's in a good groove right now. And I think Maryland's a little overrated because they have a big-name quarterback. Next up, I'm going to go with I'm tempted to take Clemson, but I can't. I don't want to take Oregon either. And BC has the quarterback issue. This is like a tougher process than I thought. We're going to go with FIU plus the big number against Western Kentucky plus the 14.5. So that's 3. I love the over in San Diego State Air Force. That's 4. And the last of the Fab 5. I'm going to go with a team that I just feel has been a cover monster, and that is UL Monroe getting the 13.5 at home against South Alabama. And then Moneyline Underdog Pick of the Week. I am going to take... I want to take Clemson. But I just have a feeling about that. But if I can't find a good one that I really like, then that's it. So I'm going to actually take Clemson, believe it or not. Plus 138 at Pitt as my money line pick of the week. How often are you going to get to pick Clemson as an underdog? As many problems as that team has had over the last couple of years. All right, now the NFL Fab 5. First up, I'm going to lay the 7.5 with the Green Bay Packers against the Washington Professional Football Team. I just think this is an Aaron Rodgers sticking it. I love Tennessee plus the 4.5 against the Chiefs. I am also going to lay the 3, the Las Vegas Raiders against the Eagles. I'm going to take the under in the New England Jets game. And then the last one, I am going to take, it's a toss-up between 2 teams. I just don't know which one to go with. I'm going to see who has the bigger edge. It's 2 home underdogs. So, 1, half, 1. So, 5-point edge on 1 home underdog. And a 4 3/4. So I'm going to take the Dolphins plus the 2.5 as my last pick of the Fab 5. And then the money line pick of the week, I'm going to take Tennessee against the Chiefs. I'm all in on Tennessee. So there you have it, Fab 5 for the weekend. So again, recap the Fab 5. So college, under 58.5 in Colorado State, Utah State. Virginia Tech minus 3.5 against Syracuse. Minnesota minus the 4.5 against Maryland. FIU plus 14.5 against Western Kentucky. Over 38.5 between San Diego State and Air Force State. And Clemson as the moneyline pick of the weekend in the NFL. Green Bay minus 7.5 against the Washington Professional Football Team. Tennessee plus 4.5 against the Chiefs. Under 42.5 between the Jets and the Patriots. Miami plus 2.5 against the Falcons. The Raiders minus 3 against the Eagles. And the moneyline pick of the week, Tennessee plus 188 against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, hope you guys have a great weekend, everyone.